U.S. analyst says Ethiopians should be congratulated for building GERD that benefits Africa. And the political analyst urges Africans to stand in unison for any meaningful U.S.-Africa relations to proceed. Greetings, dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen. This is Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Shifarao Lako. Thank you for joining us. Now, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed convened with the Addis Ababa City Administration Cabinet to review the 2021-22 budget year and the 2022-23 quarter activities performance. It is to be recalled that earlier this year, the Prime Minister convened the Addis Ababa City Administration Cabinet to discuss a variety of issues and set a direction to be implemented in the administration's next 100 days plan, the Office of the Prime Minister of Ethiopia said. As a follow-up to the directions that had been set, the Prime Minister once again met with the Cabinet on Tuesday to review the city's previous budget year and the ongoing quarter-year performance. The Prime Minister also entrusted and provided directional emphasis to the capital's cabinet on expanding the good development endeavors throughout the city. That's according to the Office of the Prime Minister. Now, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres hails efforts by the African Union to broker peace in Ethiopia. In his remarks at the end-of-year press conference, he indicated African countries have not clearly benefited from special drawing rights, which tend to benefit the richest countries first and foremost. Expressing optimism, the Secretary General said there have been measures of progress to help address some of the world's conflicts. What he observed in East Africa is promising. Have a listen to this.
And we're also seeing a measure of progress to help address some, unfortunately not all, but some of the world's festering conflicts. Much more, in any case, must be done in all situations. But diplomacy has helped pull several conflicts from the brink. In Ethiopia, efforts by the African Union to broker peace are a reason for hope. A cessation of hostilities and implementation agreements are in place. A pathway to assistance in the northern part of the country is emerging.
Countries around the world use opportunities in various forms of platform.
It is high time for Africa to become a domestic tourism market.
This is the time for us to produce what we consume.
How would that platform would impact the entire Africa?
The unity of Africa is here. It resides here in Addis Ababa.
Exactly opposite what the media is trying to portray to those who are outside Ethiopia.
What has really motivates you to work on tourism?
Africa Union kindly help African countries to open the sky of Africa.
Thank God we have a country like Ethiopia.
The entire African continent is an import-driven economy.
We should go back to that, Ubuntu. Everybody owns everything. Nobody owns anything.
Well, dear viewers, let's now turn our attention to trending stories over the past 24 hours. And I'm joined by my colleague, Goshu Melissa. He's going to help us find some of the things that he observed. Goshu, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Shpi.
Now, as we have been following, there is this push by different individuals for Africa to have a permanent seat at the UN Security Council. Have you observed any new developments in this regard?
Yeah, I've seen one issue that India advocates for permanent UN Security Council seats for African continents. This question was just raised by members and permanent representatives in the UN Security Council repeatedly who believes in equality and justice. So at least they requested that at least 25 seats in the UN Security Council to be there in the UN Security Council for African continents. So not only that, They also said that influential states like Ethiopia and the whole region should be included in the permanent seat. They requested that. And the UN Security Council needs to introspect that while more than half of the country issues on the UN Security Council agenda pertain to Africa. So the African continent doesn't even have a single voice amongst the permanent members to defend its own interests. In the absence of their permanent seat, various decisions passed by the General Assembly of the UN Security Council. So Indian Foreign Affairs and the current President of General Assembly said there should be an equitable representation of member states in the UN Security Council side. Let's take a look at that.
All right.
We have convened here today for an honest conversation about the effectiveness of multilateral institutions created more than 75 years ago. That the question of equitable representation on and increase in the membership of the Security Council has been on the UNGA agenda for well over 3 decades. Member states from Latin America, Africa, Asia, and small island developing states should have credible and continuing representation in the Security Council. Decisions about the future can no longer be taken without their participation. Equally important is to make working methods and processes of the global institutions, including this Council, more accountable, objective, and transparent.
Okay. The other thing is that the historical injustice must be corrected and prioritized for 1.3 billion people of Africa, said the one who came from Ghana said at the UN Security Council. Let's take a look again at that.
The historical injustice to the 54 member states of Africa, with a population of more than 1.3 billion and a combined economy in excess of $3.5 trillion US, must be prioritized. A renewed multilateral system should take into consideration several of the international developmental institutions and processes outside the UN, including the Bretton Woods institutions that are failing to adequately respond to the pressing needs of the peoples of the world, especially those of the developing world.
Okay. The other thing is that here again, India, Russia, and China, other permanent states who believe in equality and justice, as I told you in the beginning, were behind Ethiopia while Ethiopia was accused or misrepresented by the General Assembly. We remember that, this all, Shifi.
Yeah. Well, Goshu, thank you so much for that idea.
Thank you so much.
Now, moving on, the United Nations Development Programme Economic Advisor Ali Zafar says Ethiopia's peace and reform programs will create opportunities to showcase achievements and galvanize foreign support for implementing its diverse and immense economic potentials for development. The UNDP Economic Advisor also stresses Ethiopia's economic potentials need to be given due priority. Tigsaris has the following account from the Ethiopian News Agency.
The UNDP Economic Advisor told the Ethiopian News Agency that the peace environment and the reforms are the achievements that the country should promote to galvanize foreign support to catalyze resources for the utilization of its diverse sectoral potential for development and growth.
The peace environment, the reform program should be an opportunity for Ethiopia to showcase the accomplishments and also to galvanize foreign partners to support the reforms.
Despite the challenges encountered over the past 2 or 3 years, Ethiopia has huge economic potentials and good development history, the Economic Advisor pointed out, citing Ethiopia's huge resources and its strategic geographical location in the Horn of Africa.
These factors can be, and skills, and these factors can be catalyzed to help Ethiopia deepen its economic impact by having a stronger agricultural sector, a more professional and modern services sector, and a manufacturing sector that helps Ethiopia double its export performance in the coming years.
According to him, modernizing and building stronger agriculture sector in Ethiopia requires benefiting farmers by scaling up technologies such as the use of fertilizer and seeds, solving land issues by allowing farmers to use it as collateral to promote economic development, and investing in climate-smart agriculture, including drought-resistant seeds and irrigation.
ሌማት ማለት ብዙ ትርጓሜ ያለው ጥሬ ትርጓሜው ለምለም እንጀራ ማለት ነው። በሌላ በኩል ማዕድ ማለት ነው። ሌማት ቤተሰብ የሚበላበት ማዕድ ነው። ሌማት ላይ ከተረፈ ከቤተሰብ ተረፈ ማለት ነው። ከቤተሰብ ከተረፈ ወደ ጎረቤት ሄደ ማለት ነው። በቤተሰብ ደረጃ የምግብ ራስን መቻል ጉዳይ ኢትዮጵያ ካረጋገጠች በሀገር ደረጃ ያለው የምግብ ራስን መቻል ሩጫ ሚሳካ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። በሚቀጥሉት 4 ዓመታት ዶሮን፣ ስጋን፣ ወተትን፣ ማርን፣ አሳን ማትረፍረፍ እንፈልጋለን። ይህን ማድረግ እንችላለን። ልክ እንደ ግሪን ሌጋሲው፣ ልክ እንደ ስንዴው፣ ልክ እንደ ችግኝ መትከሉ ተረባርበን በአንድ ድምፅ ህዝባችን አሳብረን ከሰራን እንችላለን። ፕሮጀክት መጨረስ ባህል ሆኖ አሁን ያሉ ዋና ዋና ሜጋ ፕሮጀክቶች አልቀው የሌማት ትሩፋት ተሳክቶ በእያንዳንዱ ቤተሰብ ማዕድ ላይ ምግብ ከተረፈ ለምርጫ ባትወዳደሩም ችግር የለውም። የአንድ መንግስት ዜጎቹን መመገብ የሚያስችል ስራ በተርም ሰርቶ ምግብ የተረፈባት ኢትዮጵያ ካለች እኛ ቀጠልን አልቀጠልን ዋና አጀንዳ መሆን የለበትም። በሚቀጥለው 4 ዓመት ግን ይህን ማሳካት ግዴታ ተደርጎ መወሰድ አለበት።
Welcome back. You're still watching Addis News Hour. Now, the American political economic analyst Lawrence Freeman says there is no reason for anybody to complain about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. He says the GERD is the greatest accomplishment in sub-Saharan Africa, and everybody should congratulate the Ethiopian people for taking this bold challenge and building the dam that benefits the continent. Daniel Kassaun takes up the Ethiopian news agency's file as follows.
The American political economic analyst Lawrence Freeman, who visited the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD project, told ENA that there is no reason for anybody to complain about this dam. According to Freeman, it is in the United States' interest to support Ethiopia in its efforts to build the Renaissance Dam, the largest hydroelectric dam on the African continent. Ethiopia should therefore be congratulated by the United States and by the Western world for this phenomenal accomplishment, Freeman stressed.
As the dam is completed with 13 turbines, it will supply more power to the Horn of Africa. There is no reason for anybody to complain about this dam. This dam is one of the greatest accomplishments in sub-Saharan Africa, and everybody should congratulate the Ethiopian people for taking this bold challenge of building the largest dam in Africa and the 7th most powerful dam in the world.
Upon completion, the massive complex infrastructure is expected to generate almost 5,200 megawatts of electricity that will contribute to regional economic development, which will also provide stability to the region. Ethiopia should therefore be congratulated by the United States and by the Western world for this phenomenal accomplishment, Freeman reiterated. He witnessed the speedy construction of the Grand Renaissance Dam project.
I've always tried to get here, so getting here today was a very special moment in my adult lifetime. There's very few moments, if any, that equal today. And I think that the United States government and the Western governments should be praising Ethiopia and should be finding ways to help Ethiopia develop its economy given the aspirations of the Ethiopian government to provide electricity. This is the first step. Much work has to be done.
Freeman also noted that Ethiopia has reaffirmed many times that the construction of GER will not significantly affect the flow of the Abai River into the downstream countries. The American analyst believes that the Grand Renaissance Dam should be considered as a victory for this generation of Ethiopia like the forefathers.
As I studied the Battle of Adwa, where the Ethiopians under Menelik II defeated the Italian army on March 1st, 1896. That was the first time that an African nation defeated a so-called modern army. And Ethiopia, as a result of that, was never colonized. And the Ethiopian mindset is a strong identity for the nation and a bold vision for the future. This dam represents the same identity and mindset that we saw in Adwa. And when the dam is completed in 2025, I think we have to add to the Ethiopian calendar the GER Day next to the Adwa Day.
Ethiopia, which is a source of 85% of the Nile, is filling the GER reservoir through a gradual process and only during its rainy season to allow the river to continue flowing to downstream countries.
Now, in the past 4 years, Ethiopia has planted over 25 billion trees in its Green Legacy initiative to fight the consequences of climate change. In an interview with ETV, Gammado Dale, lead environmentalist, has called on Africans to join the Ethiopian Green Legacy initiative to fight climate change. Gammado has the following story.
Ethiopia has planted over 25 billion trees in the past 4 years. That's why the U.S. government has given the Outstanding African Leadership Award for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed recently for his achievement in the Green Legacy campaign to fight climate change. Talking to ETV, Gammado Dale, lead environmentalist, appreciated the U.S. government for its recognition to Ethiopia's Green Legacy initiative.
Ethiopia has a lot to share to other countries. Actually, the leadership of Ethiopia in environmental issues has been there since Ethiopia launched its climate resilient green economy strategy in South Africa, Durban, in 2011. Since then, the leadership is there, the commitment is there, and particularly the current Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, has taken very bold and exemplary action, which has resulted in such high-level recognition.
Although Ethiopia has been discharging its responsibility in restoring forest ecosystem, all African countries shall coordinate their efforts to fight climate change as its impact is not limited to a single geographic region, Dali urged.
As the impact of climate change is not limited to a single geographic region or a single country, all countries, for example, in the Eastern Africa or Horn of Africa, or in general Africa, shall coordinate their efforts, because if Ethiopia is doing everything it can do, but the other countries are not taking proper actions, finally we all suffer the impacts of climate change. So coordinated and aligned actions are important, and for that global leadership should support the initiative of Ethiopia under the Green Legacy initiative and the commitment of the Prime Minister.
The environmentalists further suggested that mandated institutions need to have follow-up systems to nurture planted seedlings in addition to controlling deforestation of the already existing forest coverage.
Millions have been mobilized, and billion Ethiopian financial resources have been invested. All these are meant to achieve a restored forest ecosystem. How are we monitoring? Do we have monitoring system in place? And what is the take-home assignment for each, particularly for those institutions mandated to follow up those activities? And the other one is, when we are investing our energy, our resources to restore degraded forest ecosystems, still today we are losing significant forest coverage in existing forest.
The U.S. government has given an award for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed for bold measures he has taken in the Ethiopian Green Legacy initiative to fight against climate change.
Dear viewers, now I'm preparing to host the news package of the day. Our reporters are always striving to present you fresh stories on Ethiopia's socio-economic and political affairs. And we, the presenters, we always strive to present to you the stories in a way that you can relate to. Before I head to the studio and present myself to the audience, I have to look presentable.
Hello dear viewers, I'm Tabitha John and this is Addis News Hour. Do stay with us.
Welcome back, you're still watching Addis News Hour. Moving on, a political analyst urges Africans to stand in unison for their interests for any meaningful U.S.-Africa relations to proceed. During his stay with Addis Dialogue, Jonas Buru, also an economist by profession, went on to say that U.S.-Africa relations must have sufficient room for shaping and influencing Africans' agendas. Kasaun Chan has the following story.
United States-Africa relations need redirecting along the way of constructive engagement, according to the expert. It could be more appropriate for the United States government to work with African governments to effect the envisioned change in socio-economic, political and security spheres rather than work against them.
What is Africa doing in terms of playing its role in influencing where this thing is heading? Mm-hmm. What is our own country, Ethiopia, doing? When we're invited to come to the US or invited to go to the European Union, and they have their agenda, and they tell us this is our agenda. Why isn't Africa prepared to come with a joint policy? This is also what we want out of this relationship. There is a new paradigm shift in geopolitical and geoeconomic space. That causes a change in international development. So Africa is at a position now, and again, starting from our poverty is our strength view, that Africa can also dictate, we need change in the way we are relating to each other.
From December 13 to 15, President Biden hosted leaders across the African continent in Washington, D.C. for the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit. Reportedly, 49 African governments, the African Union Commission, representatives from civil society and the private sector, young leaders and the African diaspora and the United States attended the event spanning 3 days. According to Buru, until Africa can achieve the development endeavor, it cannot be predicted that the implications of the foreign pressures all over the continent.
Until that happens, we really cannot predict what the implication would be, because it's one group, primarily China on the one side, European Union and the US on the other side. So what is the missing link in this is, what did Prime Minister come with when he came to Washington? What did the African continent as a continent came to Washington? What is our agenda? We know their agenda. So this is where the discussion needs to focus. This is on us, on Africans. This is on us as Ethiopians. We have to change the EU, US, China nexus on the one hand. How are they playing each other in this geopolitical fight or geopolitical rivalry? On the other hand, the China, US, EU, Africa relationship, how should it evolve? And most importantly, this African psychology that always comes as a victim of international politics, that needs to change.
For quite a long, United States engagement in Africa tended to prioritize United States interests, failing to take into account the fast-paced changes occurring across the continent. Today, Africa has emerged as one of the world's most sought-after destinations for digital innovation and entrepreneurship. New and emerging technologies associated with the fourth industrial revolution hold both opportunities and risks in critical sectors.
Now, dear viewers, in our sports coverage, the world has just witnessed one of the most breathtaking and dramatic events at the Qatar FIFA World Cup 2022. Beyond being the most compact and pollution-free event, the Qatar 2022 came as an occasion for various unexpected incidents to happen. And in this regard, I'm joined by over the phone by a seasoned Ethiopian sports commentator and the former sports journalist Said Kiar from Direda, which is a charter city some 535 kilometers from Addis Ababa. Said, can you hear me? And thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, how are you? I'm hearing you, yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely, I'm good, thank you. So what unique aspects did you observe at the World Cup, which recently happened in Qatar? What are some of the things that caught your attention?
There were so many things that caught attention of the world and also attention of me. I've been watching the World Cup since the American World Cup 1994. It's almost about my 6th or 7th World Cup. But this was very much unique from the start to the end. It's the first time the Arab world have made this World Cup. Mostly the Europeans and the Latin Americans, and also once in Asia, in South Korea and Japan in 2002, there was a World Cup over there. But we have seen the uniqueness behavior of the Arab states, the Arab culture, the multicultural behavior of the world have been seen in Qatar. From the beginning, there were some speculations the World Cup will be one of the most non-decorated ones, one of the most non-decorated ones, because of the different kind of behavior those countries have. The banning of alcoholic beer from the stadium, and some things were there before the World Cup started. After the World Cup have been on course, everything was changed. So many people were admiring how much sophisticated were the technologies that made the World Cup very beautiful inside the pitch and also outside. This was one of the unique things. And when it come up to the competition between countries, it was a marvelous one from the start to the end. The Argentinians lost by Saudi 2-1 on the first game. No one expected them to win the World Cup, starting from a defeat from a small footballing nation. So it was a very unique one, and Messi and Argentina won the World Cup. And it looks like a scripted one, a scripted World Cup. It was a very nice one. It was the attention was being given from all over the world, and I think it was one of the best World Cups from the start to the end.
Absolutely. So can you also tell me, what lessons can we draw from this huge event? Can you briefly tell us what the lesson that you...
Yeah. The basic thing for us, as Ethiopians, as viewers, we can take so many lessons from this World Cup. At first, it's the love of a nation, the love of the respect for your own culture, and also regarding to the footballing things, we have to have this kind of infrastructures. As you see, if you want to be a footballing nation, you have to have very good modernized infrastructures to become a football powerhouse. And also, we have witnessed that how the Qatar, a small nation having 0.5 million population, have caught the world's attention. So we can catch through sporting events. We can develop so many things in football, and then we can catch the world's attention. As Ethiopia has got 120 million people, and also a history of 3,000 years back. So we have to be part of the world we have to give some unique things in football, in sports, like our athletes have been doing for so many years. So this caught my attention regarding to what we should learn from Qatar.
Well, Said Kiar, seasoned sports journalist and commentator, thank you so much for that ideas, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you very much.
The 17th Global
It's expected that Ethiopia is
Ethiopians
Our news is always aired on Monday to Friday on 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. and also on Saturday and Sunday on 9 p.m. Make sure to follow us.
And now moving to continental news, the metro is one of the largest infrastructures projects on the continent of Africa. It is an ambitious social project that will benefit millions of people in Abidjan. Kazaun Chane has more on that from Africa News.
Ivory Coast on Monday commissioned two major infrastructure projects in the Ivorian economy capital Abidjan, the construction of the metro and the extension of the international airport.
The purpose of my visit is obviously to mark the concrete launch of the completion of major infrastructure projects here in Abidjan.
The launch had imprisoned French Economy Minister Bruno Le Maire, who signed agreements including credits for the project.
The metro is one of the largest infrastructure projects on the continent. It is an ambitious project, a social one that will benefit millions of people in Abidjan.
The cost of the work is estimated at 1.36 billion euro. The line will cross the Ivorian metropolis from north to south over 37 kilometers as far as the airport. The construction work is being delayed for years, but the government hopes that the metro will be operational by 2025.
Well, the viewers, finally a quick reminder of the top stories. U.S. analyst says Ethiopians should be congratulated for building GERD that benefits Africa. And political analyst urges Africans to stand in unison for any meaningful U.S.-Africa relations to proceed. Well, viewers, that's all the news there is for now. Thank you so much for having been with us.